Well, Indianapolis has long enjoyed a history of successfully hosting high-profile sporting events, from the 1982 National Sports Festival to the '87 Pan Am Games, Super Bowl 47, and more recently landing the 2022 College Football Playoff National Championship game. But what is the economic impact of these events beyond the games? For some answers, let's bring in national site selection firm KSM Location Advisor CEO Tim Cook and President Katie Culp. And welcome, as always.
Hi, Gary.
As we delve in, go inside economic development, Indy, great reputation for hosting sporting events, really a global reputation. As you look at it, what makes, first of all, these events worthwhile from an economic development standpoint? We just saw recently the best example, one of the best examples, College Football Playoff Championship, National Championship game. Indy gets it in 2022. Yeah,
Gary, I think that event in particular, the fact that we got it, it wasn't even competitively bid. We were invited to host it. I think it validates the sports strategy that Indy's had for about 40 years now, which is let's use sports as an economic development tool and to drive behavior based on that. So I think it's something that the city and really the whole community should be really proud of.
Which, if you go back 40 years, pretty novel idea to come up with that. I don't think everybody was necessarily on board with that idea, but boy, as you say, it's played out.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the history, it goes back to like the late 70s when Mayor Hudnut said, let's build a dome before we have a team, and then you go to the Simons saving the Pacers, the Pan Am game. There's been a whole strategy that Indianapolis has really put into place, and I think getting this event is the culmination of that.
Katie, in your view, as you look at what makes Indianapolis successful, as Tim mentioned, the Indiana Sports Corporation is the first organization of its kind in the country. Now there are hundreds. So the competition for these events are very intense. How does Indianapolis, as a track record, how do they continue to do very well in not only getting the big events, but doing a great job hosting them?
Well, I think the track record is a really important component of it. When people are making decisions about where to place these events, they want to eliminate risk or at least minimize it. And we've proven that we can do this and we can do it without screwing up. And so I think that speaks volumes. But we've got the assets here that make it attractive. We have the hotel rooms, we have amazing volunteer community who come out of the woodwork to work at these things, and we've got corporate support. I mean, they came together to pull in the Super Bowl, and it seems like that's going to happen again with this event.
And you look at bipartisan support, be it at state government, local government, and we're beginning to see communities. We just did the story on the Little League Central region coming to Zionsville. We're seeing what's happening in Westfield. So this whole sports strategy is kind of going around the state and smaller communities as well.
Yeah, it can, maybe that'll be what brings this all together. But even for people like me who maybe aren't sports aficionados, I think it's something we can all rally around and be proud that our community is home to some of these amazing events.
Yeah, a lot is always made about the economic impact of these events. Impact studies are done and the like. But let's talk about the College Football Playoff, the National Championship game. Tim, as you look at that, beyond the field, what's the impact in your view?
Well, you're going to have a lot of people spending money downtown, and so that's huge. We're going to have a ton of visitors here. You're going to have a lot of exposure nationally and internationally as far as people being aware of the event and being aware of Indianapolis. But the other part is it really gives us an opportunity to showcase Indianapolis to businesses that we're trying to attract here. It gives us almost an opportunity to talk to these people that have come to visit. What do you think about Indianapolis? It gives us that chance to assess why we're strong and to make the city even more competitive.
And that's the piece, national and international television exposure, media exposure in all forms, across all platforms. Hard to put a dollar amount on that, but yet there has to be some impact there.
Absolutely. It has people talking about Indianapolis in some parts of the country or even parts of the world that aren't even familiar with us. So I think that part is very valuable.
Yeah, but go ahead, Katie.
Yeah, and Tim, I mean, don't you think even a lot of, something's been said a lot about how many corporate headquarters do we have here in the region and maybe how it compares to other communities. But even those companies that we have that have large presence here but maybe aren't headquartered, their headquarter leadership are coming in. They're going to these games. They're meeting the leadership here in the community. They're seeing what an amazing place we call home. Yeah. And I think that's the type of advertising and PR that you can't even purchase, and it has a lasting impact when they're thinking about where to place an expansion down the line or something like
absolutely.
that. Yeah, as you look at these big events, whether it's the national championship game for football, the Big Ten championship that's coming up next weekend, are these just one-time shots in the arm? or do they have impact that can go further than that? Katie?
Well, we don't totally agree on a lot of things, but this too. You know, I think the risk is that it is just a one-hit wonder. I think it doesn't have to be. I think when we get all of our many great organizations working together and crossing barriers to try and leverage every ounce of these events, it can be more meaningful. But I think, you know, worst case scenario, it's still a huge shot in the arm to our economy.
Yeah, I think the sports strategy has worked, and we need to continue to invest in downtown. And I think if we're going to continue to double down on the strategy, which I think is the right way to go, it's not just about hosting more conventions, hosting more sporting events, but trying to parlay this into having actual corporate attraction success as well.
And you both weigh in on this, but does this play into the whole live, work, play model that economic development, so much of economic development seems to be about that?
Absolutely. I think this is part of what attracts people to downtown, part of what attracts them to Indianapolis. And sports isn't the only thing. It can be part of how do we develop the arts and the cultural aesthetics that we have, but I think it's a big part of what we do.
We can't import mountains or oceans to Indiana, but we can continue to attract really, you know, high-performing events like this and that gain attraction. So that's what we can do, and we should keep doing it.
All right, some great perspective on high-profile sporting events in Indianapolis. It's become the city's calling card, or certainly one of them. Tim Cook, Katie Culp, KSM Location Advisors, thanks very much.
Thanks, Gary.
Thanks, Gary.
Talk to you soon.